All right, welcome you guys tonight. Excited to have as many on here as there are. And I'm excited to be able to share with you guys passionately about my most favorite part of this company to talk about, which is the products. And it becomes apparent to me every now and again that I sort of forget to start back at the beginning. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I go into this journey, I've been in this journey 5 years, and I think surely everybody knows by now that the X factor absorbency rate is really a true claim, for example, or everything that the Ease capsules are capable of doing. And then I think, no, these new people for sure don't know it. And sometimes I think people are not as new as I think I get confused and I think, well, surely they know it. And I think, no, gosh, probably haven't talked about that in detail in 3 years or more. So that's what tonight is all about. I'm going to make sure everyone's muted because I keep hearing noise, although it may be Jetty. He's in a different room tonight. I anticipated that this Zoom would be so good that I even cleaned back there. Look, I cleaned it up. Looky there, no piles of things. Y'all just didn't even know that. So that's how excited I was about tonight that I actually got on the move. My pretty little quilt back there that my friend Rosemary, there it is, that she had made for me, it's where it's lived, but you just couldn't see it before. So, okay, so here we go. I think I'm going to start tonight. I have so many things to talk about. I think I'm going to just tell you something really simple that will wow you if you don't know this. Any external sign of a fungal overgrowth, so athlete's foot, a yeast infection, jock itch, eczema, psoriasis, many of those things, if you're in a situation where you can, will clear up faster if you are taking the products the way you should internally, but also you can bust a ProBio 5 capsule open into some body cream and apply it topically. In every one of those situations that I just said too. Like, ew, that's why I kind of lumped them all together so that you didn't immediately go to, like, what? But yes, in all of those examples, you can take a ProBio 5, bust it open, and it will do topically way better than anything else that you could apply topically from the store or from a doctor. We have had people who go through die-off symptoms once they get on the triplex. And so, for example, let's take plexus out of the equation and let's say that you have gone to the doctor and gotten on an antibiotic. And for women, we know what kind of tragedy that can mean after you get on it, because we know that it's going to raise the candida level in your body. It can cause all kinds of infection. Well, same thing can happen when you start having this candida die-off reaction. The same thing can happen, and people can experience that in a really bad way. And all you need to do is to tell people, well, it'd be super easy. Now, if they have body cream, that's what I think works best. If a person doesn't have body cream, which is pretty common these days, that when someone would be brand new and having detox, they might not have the body cream. Coconut oil also. You could break a capsule into coconut oil. All right? That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, open gaping sores that won't heal. I learned this through a 90-something-year-old ambassador on my team. Can you believe this? Okay. 90-something years old. He's still on our team. He's a Facebook. I don't listen to any Facebook excuses from people when they're like, I'm too old to Facebook. I'm like, tell that to my buddy. He's 90. He's probably 94 or 95 by now. He told me this a few years ago and he was 92. And what he learned was he had a sore. And, a lot of times when people get older, they have more trouble with their wounds not wanting to heal. And he had an open sore, I think, on his calf. I can't remember. I think it was on his calf. And so he listened to this amazing interview about X Factor, and he decided then and there, I'm going to break that open. Put it in some body cream. Now here, pay attention to this next part. If it's an open, like moist, gross sore or wound, you don't want to put it in it. You want to put it around it, okay? But you can open an X Factor capsule. It will speed up the healing time incredibly so. He had this wound that would not get well for months and months. I want to say he had even said years, like a year or more. It would almost get well, and then it would get infected, and then it would get gross again. And he started using the X Factor in the body cream. Now, in this case, I really say body cream. I think someone needs to go to the trouble to order the body cream, because the body cream is known for pulling toxins from the body. If you did not know this, the body cream was originally called breast cream. And the reason it was called breast cream is because it is known. Okay, someone asked, did he use the original X Factor? He did, because this was a while back, but it would be the same. It would be the same, in my opinion, because the new X Factor is just more powerful. Its absorbency rate is very high. Now, I don't know for sure how that applies when you're doing it topically, but it's just a very, very powerful vitamin. I've seen, now, his is not the only story that I've ever heard. You can imagine, since I'm a sharer, I heard that, and I told it to everybody like that would listen to me at that time, and anybody that reached out to me and said, so-and-so has this thing going on, what do we do? And in every instance, I'd say, try that, and it worked for, I don't think I've ever had anybody that it didn't work for. That's pretty good. We have a really good rates of success with this company. I guess you guys have noticed this, right? Okay, now where was I headed? I knew I had another train track going on. Does anybody know? I was still talking about the X Factor. Okay, I'll go on to, yes, using on an open sore, you want to make sure you do it around the edges of the open sore. You don't want to put it in the middle. And the reason you don't want to put it in the middle is because you don't want anything moist collecting dirt or debris from, you want to keep a wound like that. Oh yeah, breast cream. I knew there was something. Okay, thank you. I was thinking, dang it, it was something else. You want to keep the sore dry so that it's not attracting yuck, okay? Breast cream was originally, or body cream was originally called breast cream, and because it was called that because of the fact that it was intended, its initial purpose was to keep lymphatic fluid moving. Now, it seemed like a really weird and big claim to me when I started. I remember thinking, that's weird. And okay, that's what I remember thinking, okay. But I learned from one of our executives right in the very beginning. Of course, at that time, I don't know, we probably had, well, my ambassador number is 9. It's 5 digits. I was thinking what it is. It's 5 digits long. So we probably had, and since it started with a 9, we probably had less than 100,000 ambassadors at that time. And at that time, of the people who were using the breast cream and using it regularly. Now, you may think, okay, were people really using this regularly? Those first ambassadors didn't have, that's all they had. They had breast cream and breast check kits. So they were using it regularly. Now, we kind of let this be one of our overlooked products now. Those original ambassadors, that's all they had to sell. That's all they had to use. That's all they had to demonstrate at their parties and their online, or they didn't have online events. They had parties, then they would invite people over and demonstrate breast cream. Of those people, I was told by one of our executives, he said, we've never had a reported case of the people who use it to have breast cancer. And I know that he was meaning at the time that there were tens of thousands of people ordering it every month and using it. That's worth noting if you ask me. Also, okay, hang on. I'm trying to keep up with the comments. I may have to come back to the comments. But also, I have seen people have something raise up in this area or under their arm, and you apply it topically, and it actually begins to go away, whatever it was. I don't want to call it a lump. I have no idea what it is, but I know this much. If I had anything come up, I would think, I need to go to the doctor. But if it goes away because you applied breast cream, and I used to hear that a lot more. And the reason I think I used to hear it a lot more is because I think a lot more people ordered it regularly and used it regularly in that fashion. Now, I now use it. I use it everywhere. I use it on my skin anywhere. I even use it in my hair. I use it as a facial moisturizer, and it's the best thing I've ever used. It's so good. It's incredible for anytime someone has a toxin problem. I always say, you need to use breast cream on that. Do you know how often I have to say this to ambassadors who have been around for 4 years? And they're like, I didn't even think of that. The reason we don't think of it is because it's an unsung hero that actually kicked this business into gear all those years ago. It kind of just gets left aside. I would, no doubt, even if I didn't work for Plexus, didn't make any money on Plexus, I would use breast cream like I do every single month. Body cream. I would use body cream every single month. I would use it on my face, on my hair, on my heels, and on anything topically that I needed it on. It's great to mix it with the Ease Cream for burns, bug bites, anything that you think is toxic, bug bites especially. You know those are full of venom. If it pulls stuff, it's amazing. I had a friend 2 or 3 years ago get in touch with me, didn't know that we had anything like that, and she was scared, and she had been one of my brother's friends. She had worked with him at a restaurant, and she was really scared because she's like, do you guys have anything that helps with the C word? Because she was afraid she had that. She said, I've had this, she called it a cyst raise up under my arm. I'm very scared. And she described it to me, how big she thought it was, and it scared me too. And I told her, I said, I'm going to bring you something, but you need to go to the doctor. I mean, that's scary to me. It wasn't 48 hours before it had shrunk half its size, and this had been going on for a while with her. And then in less than 2 weeks, it was completely gone. I don't know what it was. I don't like to label things. I just know it's gone now, and she's doing great. Hadn't had any more health problems. All right, I've got to move on in my notes. And tell you a story about X Factor. Now, this, of course, anything I'm sharing with you today about X Factor is going to still apply, but this happened to be the old X Factor when we did this. So when X Factor first came out, it launched at a convention a couple, 3 years ago. I don't remember how long. And I was thinking, wow, I mean, first of all, I didn't even use a vitamin at the time. I got into Plexus not being very health conscious. And I had never even gotten on a vitamin. I always was kind of under the impression that they didn't really do any good for people. So many of you know that I have a relative who is a chiropractor who also owns our local diagnostic lab. And he's like my mom's favorite person in the world. I mean, like, I used to have a little bit of a jealousy issue because I'm like, God, she's always baking him cinnamon rolls. And when she was a teenager, her brother was married and had this boy. And so when he would come over to his grandma's house, my mom was still living at home. So this was her first baby, like that she ever took care of. It was her nephew. And he is the golden child and super smart, like the smartest person. He and his wife both are brilliant people. And so we came back from that convention, and I go to him and I say, hey, this is what we just launched. Does this sound cool? Do you believe this? And he said, I don't want to, he didn't want to like burst my bubble, but he's like, I have sold a lot of vitamins in his practice, because chiropractic, if you don't know this, chiropractors and chiropractic care usually generally leans to a more a more natural approach to things. And so vitamins and supplements are usually the way that they will go. So he said, I've sold high dollar, fancy vitamins that were cold pressed and all this fancy stuff. By the way, that's the first time I ever heard the word cold pressed. I didn't know what it meant. I'm telling you, I was not green at all, like not organic at all. I'm like, okay. And he said, I've never seen one that you take orally, actually absorb and go into the bloodstream and impact people's numbers enough to talk about. Okay. he said, but if you want to, we can test it. How do you test it? He says, well, what we need to do is we need to take someone who's probably low on their B vitamins and test them first before they start on it, and then test them again and see if their levels raise. Okay, why the B vitamins? He says, well, the B vitamin molecule is the largest molecule, and it's the most difficult to absorb if you take it orally. Okay, now that's why you hear people say they got a B12 shot because of the fact that B12 doesn't absorb orally. Sorry, I got a tickle. And so he said that he used to do this nonprofit thing where his organization would go into nursing homes and offer B12 shots. This is, if you're not listening, this is the time to tune back in. The B12 shots are, when he would go to these nursing homes, he said you would see people who were thought to have Alzheimer's and dementia, sundowners, any of those type conditions. He said you'd see their lights come back on and they would know who people were. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. The righteous indignation in me always rises up when I hear something like this. I'm like, then why? I've said why to him a million times because he's always the one that tells me this stuff. I say, why don't they treat it with that? And he says, well, it's not covered by insurance. Yeah. I mean, eye roll emoji, right? Like 50 of them. Okay. So he says, what we can do is figure out someone who we think someone we know would go along with this, who might have a little bit of memory loss. And we look at each other. I'm like, my mom. He's like, Mom, yeah, your mom, Aunt Beth. She's at the time, late 50s, early 60s. He said anyone who is past the age of 55 struggles even more so to absorb the larger molecules. Now, I'll explain that really briefly. There's this thing called the blood-brain barrier. And if you take something orally, anything orally, and that means it's going to have to go through the digestive system before it actually begins absorbing, because things like this need to cross the blood-brain barrier. I can't tell you a lot about the blood-brain barrier because I tried to read about it one time and I was like, oh, above my pay grade. And so I put it aside, and then I thought, now I need to revisit it because I can probably understand it a little bit better now. But that's the reason people take things like intravenously. They give you IV drugs so that it doesn't have to go through the digestive system in order to get to the bloodstream. It goes straight to the bloodstream. That's why people who like to pop pills, okay, I'm just going to tell you, lots of times they like to crush those pills and heat the bottom of a spoon and inject it intravenously. I'm saying that word, if I'm saying that word right, because by the time it goes through the digestive system, we know that there's not as much potency to it, okay? I'm trying to give you guys little triggers to help you remember things, okay? Because these are things that really bubble up in my brain and help me remember. So back to my mom's story. We had her blood tested first, and it was low in the B vitamins. Now, if it's low, if the B vitamin is affected, if the level is impacted by something, then all the other vitamins would be impacted as well, because that one is the hardest to absorb. Does everybody understand this? If it's the hardest to absorb, then the ones that are easy to absorb are also raising. So that's why we tested the B vitamin. In 1 month's time, so 30 days, her numbers raised by 1/3. In 60 days, her numbers raised by another third. So 2/3 raising in the levels in a matter of 60 days. And so she told me about the first one. She got her results back and she's like, it raised by 1/3. And I'm like, well, is that good or bad? And she said, I don't know. He seemed pleased with it. The second time when she went back after another 30 days, I said, well, is that good? After the 2/3, she said, I don't know. He seemed like he was really pleased with it. So I texted him. I said, what do you think? Do you think? I said, what did you think would happen? He said, I told you what I thought would happen. I've never seen an oral vitamin increase the B vitamin in someone's blood. I'm impressed. Okay. Now, if someone's needing a vitamin, they need X factor. There's no doubt about it. It's because of the special patented aloe blend is the reason that the absorbency rate is so high. Okay, moving on. I want to tell you a story about Ease capsules. So one time when Jetty and I got to do a opportunity of a lifetime tour, we were the speakers, okay? And we did it in Oklahoma City and in Dallas and, or no, actually it was in Ardmore. It was in Ardmore. We did it in Ardmore and Dallas that year. And we went and spent the night. We went to dinner. That's right. We went to dinner 2 different nights with one of the executives. And he told me this like, wow story about Ease capsules. Now, let me explain to you. There is an ingredient in Ease capsules called, I believe we call it Eterol, also known as Lipronol, if you ever want to look it up. Now, I think that's our brand name for our blend of it. Does that make sense? We've patented the name of it or something like that. I'm not certain about that part. Eterol, E-T-A-R-O-L, or Lipronol is like L-I-P-R-Y-N-O-L, or the I and the Y may be switched there. When I write it down, I can tell which way it is. But if you study Lipronol, there is a lot of interesting information. But I'm going to tell you the story that he told me. In New Zealand, the reason that Lipronol was ever brought to the forefront in general, there was a tribe of people, native people in New Zealand, who, as long as they were living on the coast, they were experiencing complete health. They were not experiencing any type of arthritis and that type of thing, and they were living way past the age of the average human lifespan. Well, the government, like governments are known to do, came in and moved them away from the coast and said, here, we're going to put you, inland because we need to use this for tourists, right? We need to put hotels up or whatever. So this tribe gets moved inland, and immediately they start getting arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis, and they start their average rate or average human lifespan begins decreasing. Every year they're losing more. So they decided to study them and try to determine what it was that they would have had readily available to them in their food source. Now, I find it interesting that scientists immediately went to their food source when they try to convince us that it's not our food that's making us sick. Right? They're like, oh no, just put some chemicals in. We'll counteract whatever you're doing to yourself all day long. You'll be fine. So what they found was on the coast was on the bottoms of these rocks are the little tiny clams, mussels is what they call them, M-U-S-S-E-L-S, mussels. And these mussels are what they extract Lipronol from. It's called the green-lipped mussel, green L-I-P-P-E-D, green-lipped mussel. The New Zealand green-lipped mussel is where they get Lipronol from. So what they did is, now this is not Plexus. I'm talking about the government. I'm talking about scientists at this point. Plexus is not involved in it at this point. They began to actually go in and use this Lipronol on people to see if it was working, and it was. So they decided, like they do, that rather than just give people the actual extract, they decided they could synthesize it, put it in a lab, come up with all the molecules, and make it so they could patent it and sell it, right? So they make this drug that does all the things that Lipronol does. What Lipronol does is you have, I'm fixing to get scientific and I may mess this up a little bit. you have, if I understand this right, you have 6 strands of COX-5 enzymes, something like this. Lipronol actually does something, somehow it impacts 3 of those COX-5 enzymes in a way that helps with inflammation and pain. Since they were doing it synthetically and they could do anything they wanted to this drug, they said, hey, let's do something to these other 3 too, and we'll have impacted all the COX-5 enzymes, and we're covering all our bases. Who knows what will happen? Well, who knows what will happen? You may have heard of a drug called Celebrex that has been recalled for causing heart attacks because these COX-5 enzymes didn't need to be altered because they are the ones that prevent heart attacks. Okay? So that this is a lesson on synthesizing and why you should just let nature do what nature was supposed to do. I tell this story to my mom. I come home, I'm like, and now we actually offer it in its natural form. Like, we're one of the only companies in the world, literally in the world, that has this to offer. And she's like, before I got to the part about heart attacks, all I had said was, I had gotten far enough into the story to say, COX-5 enzymes, you may have heard of Celebrex. And she goes, Celebrex, that's what your daddy was taking. Yeah, he loved that stuff. Remember, we all thought, oh my gosh, he was acting like he was so much younger because his joints, you know, he was feeling better. He was feeling amazing. Guess what my daddy died of? A heart attack. Absolutely. He was in a car accident, but I mean, he caused a car accident because he had a heart attack. So, okay, we have in Ease capsules something even better than Celebrex, which is the people who love Celebrex because of what it does. It's like youth in a bottle because it gives people mobility back. Now, also, for those of you, I can't talk about Ease without talking about this. For those of you who may have missed our Zoom call that we did a few weeks ago where I was talking about Ease, there are some jewels now who have been taking a major loading dose of Ease, not just like 6 or 9, but sometimes 12 or more a day. And the ones that you see shrinking, some of the jewels that you see shrinking, Amy Kosmowski is one of the ones I'm talking about. She takes Ease every time she eats a meal, and she takes it in the morning and at night. 2 or 3 capsules every single time. Now, you may be like, that's a lot of Ease. Here's another thing you might be like, I don't like the way that smells. And I say, well, that's fine. Then don't take it. It drives me crazy when somebody tells me something like that. I'm like, it's kind of like, I don't really like water. And I'm like, tell that to African people who have to climb a hill to get it. You know, like, don't be a baby. Don't ever tell me that you don't like water. And also, don't ever tell me that Ease stinks. I'm going to say, put it in the refrigerator and suck it up, Buttercup. You can put the bottle in the refrigerator. It doesn't stink as bad. Get over it. Or just don't, but don't talk about it. That's my point. I don't care if you do or if you don't. Don't talk about it to me, though. Ease capsules are the bomb.com. You may have heard Jetty tell before that when they launched them, we were at a leaders retreat, and we were on a cruise ship. He was taking a shower, and all of a sudden I hear ping, 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 ping. The water was really like, oh, we were in hostile waters. And I thought he had fallen in the shower or something. His wedding ring had fallen off and it had hit all over the plate. That was the wedding ring that he couldn't get off had just fallen off his fingers because he started taking a loading dose the previous day of Ease capsules. That's how much inflammation was in his body. He had done manual labor with his hands for years and years, and his fingers were so inflamed that he had never, ever even dreamed of his wedding ring falling off. And he's like, my ring fell off. So I'm all in there Googling, is it, like altitude? Like, I don't even know where we are. Y'all know me. Y'all that really know me, you're all like, she didn't know last year whether she was in Florida or California. True story. And so you can imagine, like, if I'm out to sea, that I'm all like, would it have to do with altitude or would it be longitude? I mean, like that, those are not even opposites of either, but this is kind of goofy. This is the kind of stuff I would say. So I'm trying to figure out why his ring would have fallen off. And the next day he figured out when he was taking his Ease, he's like, do you think these things would have worked that fast? Yes, it's the most powerful anti-inflammatory on the market that doesn't impact your liver. If you've never thought about that, Ease capsules are not NSAIDs. They are NSAIDs are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, I don't know, drugs, something like that. Drugs. Okay, so NSAID, non-steroidal, which means they don't hurt your organs in any way, and they get the job done. For people, the things that they told us that they would help, they have seen them help with most. It's non-compliant. I'm about to tell you everything I'm sharing with you tonight is non-compliant. It's just power, right? It's brain food. Okay. Rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, asthma, specifically in children. Those were the first three things that they said. And get this, ding, 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 leaky gut. Yeah. Oh, I just saw somebody do. Okay. Leaky gut. Now, we know that inflammatory bowel is part of leaky gut syndrome. Well, we may not, but we do now. Inflammatory bowel, any kind of condition that is inflammatory, Ease capsules are going to help that. Asthma is inflamed problems in the lungs, okay? Sinus infection is inflammation in the head. Like when your brain, you can imagine it like this, your sinuses are so stopped up and clogged. Okay, somebody wants me to repeat that. Rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, asthma specifically in children, but any kind of asthma. They were just really surprised that they could help children that easily with Ease capsules. And leaky gut. Those were the things that they said. We had a doctor actually came and gave the entire presentation, told us exactly. They had been doing tests on this Lipronol for years, and they gave us detailed explanation of what Ease capsules were good for. For asthma, now if you're asking me just Ease for asthma, my answer is Ease is going to get rid of a lot of the inflammatory response, but it's a candida problem. It's a fungal infection. If you want to get to the bottom of it, it's just sad to me that sometimes people will put someone on the triplex who has asthma and not know to tell them about Ease capsules, because sometimes we think, oh, they want the budget answer, and sometimes people want the get me the freak well answer. Does that make sense? We should at least inform people of everything that we know. Now you know. Can't put it on your wall, but you know it, right? All right. Okay. Next thing. One of my family members told me right off the bat, she's like, you know, I've taken a lot of different things in my life. Crazy things for different, she said, but I just thought I would let you know. By the way, this is one of the two of the smartest people I know that I told you about earlier. Okay, so she's married to my chiropractor cousin. She said, you know, taken a lot of different things, tried a lot of different things in my life. But now she's, you know, probably at the time she was telling me this, she's probably just a few years older than I am now. She said, I've never had anything that when I go to pack to go somewhere, that's the first thing I put in my bag. I put my triplex. At the time, it wasn't called the triplex. Those 3 products in my bag. I don't go anywhere without them. And then she started to tell me some of the things that she was noticing. Now, I hope she doesn't see this video because she would kill me, but okay. But this is a real thing for a lot of people, like a lot of people. So this, if you've ever had to take your tweezers out and go to thinning a lot of this, that is a sign, especially on women, of course, on women, I mean, especially if there's like a layer of even baby fine hair. And I'm not talking about peach fuzz really, but sometimes you'll see someone, or you might look in the mirror and see like a patch of chin hair that's like, that's really making me crazy. That is typically a sign that someone has PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Sometimes people don't know what they have wrong with them, but their hormones are like jacked up. She didn't even realize that that's what it was doing, was helping her PCOS. But that began, she was like, suddenly I don't have that issue anymore underneath here. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so when she told me this, I remember thinking, this was early on in my plexus experience. Why would it help that? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't realize that it was PCOS. I didn't realize that PCOS and hormones could be fixed with the triplex, and they absolutely can. And I didn't realize that, did you know that they treat PCOS often with diabetes medication like metformin? So in some way, even though they can't explain, maybe they can now, but when she was telling me this back then, actually she didn't tell me this, when I was studying this back then, my understanding is they can't really explain exactly what PCOS is, what causes it, and they can't explain exactly why metformin actually helps it, except for, obviously, I can tell them obviously has something to do with glucose metabolism and hormones. Your insulin is your master hormone. So the reason I know this, when I say obviously, if Slim is doing for it what they give them a diabetic medication to do, then that tells me that Slim, well, I could go on all day about Slim. Slim has its own anti-inflammatory properties. It's one of those that it's kind of like it's our front runner product. So I don't feel like I need to like pump it up to you guys. But in my mind, sometimes I just think, wow, who would have ever dreamed when somebody just gets on Slim because they want to lose weight or something, and all these things start clearing up for them. Hormonally related things frequently get way better. Okay, hang on. And now I'm going to briefly go into the only thing that I really, really know a lot about the products, and that is your immune system. I'm going to say it real simple. I said it simple on a call last night, and I thought, ha, that was so simple. Why don't you always say it like that? So I'm going to try. We're going to see it, okay? If someone is sick, that means their immune system isn't working properly, because even a wart shouldn't happen. You shouldn't even have a wart if your immune system is working properly. So a wart is a sign of a crippled immune system. Basically what's going on in most people, and I actually had a lady arguing with me not on my post, on someone else's post this week, and I was being so kind and gracious in talking to her about this, but I wanted to say, you might as well shut up, because you do not know what you're talking about. And she's in the medical field, and the truth is, she just doesn't understand that there are other ways that you can backdoor an issue. Did you know this? How you backdoor an issue is to take them to the doctor and to get a prescription. I'd prefer to kick in the front door and just like with my guns up. You know what I'm saying? Like clear, 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 clear. Because if you can get your immune system under control, if you can get the candida under control, the immune system will take over and say, thank God somebody finally came in here and got that fungal infection under control so that I can be the boss of this body again. Fungal infections are the worst nightmare for your body, because if you have a fungal infection, your body can't fight off disease. Fungal infection if you have a fungal infection on your skin, or any of the fungal infections that I talked about earlier that you can apply topically to, those are all signs that you have a fungal infection in your gut, and it's gotten bad enough that it's everywhere, like it's systemic. Like the reason it's showing up on your skin, the reason it's showing up on your scalp, the reason your joints ache, and the reason you're wheezing, all comes down to a fungal infection that's gotten out of control. If you can nip it in the bud at the root, you can regain your immune function. And the way you do that is with the triplex combo. I mean, I've even watched videos that were pretty compelling and convincing about the scariest diseases out there, that they are thought to maybe just be like a fungal overgrowth. Lots of times, did you know, okay, I'm gonna back away from that one, because sometimes that can get people stirred up and be like, no, that can't be possible. So I'm gonna back away and say, when I first started this, I had a niece who had Crohn's disease. I posted a picture. I didn't know much about Crohn's disease. I posted a picture of what Candida looks like in the gut. My niece's mother, my sister-in-law, she sends me a picture, the identical picture, like literally it looked like she screen captured my picture. And she sends me a picture and she says, guess what this is? In a text message, I said, Candida in the gut. She says, this is the picture our doctor sent us saying that this is what Crohn's disease looks like. Oh, all right. Well, armed with that information, I was obnoxious for a while. I mean, like completely obnoxious. I was so obnoxious that I got so many people to try it. Just the ProBio 5, mind you. Now, I wouldn't do it that way again. I really think they need to be on the triplex, but try just the ProBio 5 for me. And because of ProBio 5, I had until I changed phones and lost this, I had an entire file of before and after colonoscopy pictures that to the naked eye of any layperson, you could have looked at it and said, oh, well, that's the Crohn's disease, and then they got well. Super easy to tell because you could tell the difference between like what looks like garbled up flesh. It was disgusting looking with like polypy cyst looking things all over it. And the other picture just looked like smooth muscle tissue because it looked like, I mean, if you've never looked at a colonoscopy, I had never looked at a colonoscopy, and all of a sudden I had one as a screensaver on my phone because I was like, this is a victory dance, people. People who walk around with Crohn's disease, which by the way, Crohn's disease is this big pot. Like if you were going to make a stew and you're like, well, I don't want, like all this other stuff. I know what this is called, but everything I don't know what it is, I'm going to throw it in this pot and I'm going to call it Crohn's disease. So what they do, they know what ulcerative colitis looks like. They know what, they're all escaping me, irritable bowel syndrome. They know the ones that you can't, what's the ones that you can't eat? Nuts and seeds, and for some reason it won't come to me. They know that what all of those things exactly, why sometimes is something, diverticulitis, thank you. There's diverticulitis, diverticulosis. They know what those things look like, and they can show you a picture and say, this is what you have. You have this or this. But then if you just have, diarrhea or major stomach cramping or all these stomach symptoms, and they don't know what it is by looking at the pictures, they say, that's Crohn's disease, which means we're not sure, but you sure do hurt a lot, don't you? So let's put you on a steroid. Let's shut down your immune system. Let's take the batteries out of the smoke detector so that it'll quit beeping at you. Now, it does not get rid of your problem. It's just that you don't realize you have a problem anymore until it goes so far out of control that there's nothing that can be done about it. That is what steroids are made for. So, for example, the best example I can think of in regards to steroid, because this is easy for people to picture, eczema. So you have a rash on your arm and it won't go away. They give you a steroid. That makes the immune system's response system, like emergency broadcasting system, turn off. Now, that in that instance, if you live in Oklahoma, you're like, well, there's a tornado coming still, but at least I don't have to listen to that annoying siren. It's the same thing. If you still have a colon gut health issue, Candida overgrowth extraordinaire, and it's going to continue to get worse, but they've turned off your body's ability to tell you there's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem. Now, but doctors are starting to, I don't know how long they've realized it, they're starting to talk about it. Part of the reason they're starting to talk about it is because they have to. Now that people are applying this information and getting the kind of results that Plexus people get, there's no way that they can't talk about it because they look like fools not to. I truly believe that doctors actually, the majority of them weren't taught this in medical school because it's not a moneymaker for pharmaceutical companies, to be honest with you. Because it would be sort of like the Celebrex versus Lipronol thing. If you can use an antifungal and get well from a major disease, then they don't give you steroids for the rest of your life. Or like rheumatoid arthritis, many times they'll put you on a chemo drug that you will be on for the rest of your life, sometimes to the tune of several $1,000s a month. Okay? let me tell you another thing. I had a girl that I went to high school with. By the way, several girls that I went to high school with were all in the same, like, 3 or 4 month period diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I'm seeing this crop up on my newsfeed, and I'm like, so weird. They're not even like 40 years old, and they're all like, they're all like, I'm letting somebody get a picture of my quilt. So at some point, all of these people they're getting diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and what ends up happening to them is they'll go to the rheumatologist, and the rheumatologist is going to tell them, well, you don't actually have it yet, but you're borderline. Let's go ahead and start you on this steroid. And if you weren't sick before, you definitely will be now because we got you in the system. What happens? They shut their immune system off. And at that point, I'm sorry if I'm offended anybody right now. I'm sorry, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Like, if there's anybody that's like, I work for a rheumatologist. He's not the death doctor. He may not know that he is, but it's terrible to think that this girl that was in my, I went to high school with, she messaged me one time and asked me if I would kindly consider quit talking about what I was talking about, because at that time it wasn't non-compliant or we didn't know it. If I would kindly quit talking about it, because all of her friends kept sending her my stuff, and she couldn't afford to try another thing because the regimen that her doctor had her on was already costing her $2,100 a month. Her. No telling what insurance was paying. You know what I told her? This is one of the first times I can remember being bold. I said, I can't correct ignorance like that, but maybe I can help other people get rid of their RA. I'm sorry that you don't want to try something natural that might actually get you well. But there are other people in my friends list who have already gotten well. And to me, it doesn't make sense at all that someone would think that Plexus is something they can't afford when they're already paying over $2,000 a month using a regimen that does not get you well. And you know this because she'd already confessed it to me that it wasn't getting her well. I would not, by the way, suggest being that rude with someone, but the fact that she was asking me to shut up about something that was truth was the reason I felt like, well, I might as well just be truth, come back at her with both guns loaded, if that makes sense. After that is when I started really noticing the trend of a lot of people my age getting diagnosed with it. And I was like, that is such BS. It's the biggest BS I've ever heard, and I'm not even kind of happy about it. And if you hear someone say, well, I got to go to the rheumatologist to find out for sure whether I have lupus, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, or a number of other autoimmune disorders, the fact is maybe they need to lose a little weight. Get them on a little Plexus and get them well. I mean, whatever hook you have to use in the mouth to get them started, because most people are so brainwashed that they may not start it for, you don't want to suggest that somebody's fat, I understand this, but whatever reason that you can get the Plexus to them and in them is if they're a friend of yours and they're someone that you love, I'm just telling you, steroids are the devil, in my opinion. Now, sometimes I understand. Sometimes they are life-saving, just like antibiotics. Sometimes, no matter what someone told me, there are some people that I would say, just stay on your steroid because I don't know enough about what you have and it scares me to think about you getting off of it. But most people don't fit in that category. Like, I can only think of 2 people that I know that I think, eek, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you because they have something extraordinarily rare. Rheumatoid arthritis is not extraordinarily rare. It's one of the most common diseases out there, and it causes people, get ready for this, causes people to end up with cancer. Do you know why? Because they shut off their immune system. They take a steroid and they end up with no immune function, and then their body is vulnerable to all kinds of disease. It also can cause them to have liver failure because the drugs that they put them on, like methotrexate, are extraordinarily harsh on the liver. They can only take those for so long. But they don't mean to put you on them for only so long. They want you on them for the rest of your life. Crippled up. They don't make you feel any better usually. I never have done a a Zoom call that was quite this straightforward, because I know that this kind of information can get people all like, what? If you're one of those people that just doesn't agree with what I'm saying, the reason I wouldn't do a video like this or a Zoom call like this a long time ago is because I didn't feel as certain as I feel now. Now, there's no way you could convince me otherwise. No way in the world that you could convince me otherwise about the things I've just shared with you. Okay, I am going to briefly go through these, make sure I'm not missing any really important questions. Okay, I'm almost to the end here. Okay, hang on one second. I've got a long one to read real quick. Let me pause real quick. Another thing that Ease capsules were praised for, I knew there was something else, I couldn't think of it earlier. Speedy recovery after a surgery. Don't know why. And it's inflammatory properties, I'm sure, but I don't know the exact science behind it. Hang on. I hope y'all are reading these. I hope you can see the chat. I'm making sure I don't have to answer anything, but I hope you guys have seen some of these testimonies. My first colonoscopy, they wanted to diagnose me with Crohn's. They started the triplex. My second colonoscopy was all clear. Amazing. Okay. Okay, somebody says, any info on the nerve health? Here's what I can tell you that I know about nerve health. It works. I've seen people be extraordinarily in all kinds of pain. I remember my first experience with nerve health. I was having crippling, like cry yourself to sleep pain down the back of my neck. And that's why I finally ended up giving up photography. Is I kind of linked it to the fact that I carried that my camera was that I used for my lens that I used for weddings was really like, it was like holding a newborn. And you can imagine if you strap a newborn around your neck with not supporting it anywhere else. And so, and I was lazy about it. I should have been holding the camera more, but down the back of my neck, down the back of my arm and into, which I think a lot of people have similar problems because of their cell phones too, honestly. They came out with the nerve health, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I was so excited to have something for nerves. The first dose that I took of it, I woke up in the middle of the night. I never dreamed, I didn't even think about the fact that I had taken that, but I had just read, like a few days before that, read an article about when a woman experiences a heart attack, it's different symptoms than a man. So I wake up in the middle of the night and there's this pain. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a weird sensation, really, more of a sensation, going down the back of my neck, right here into my shoulder. And it was like pulsing and piercing, and it was a sensation. I woke up and I thought, oh my God, what is that? And I sat up, moved around, tried to get comfortable. And when I would lay down, it would be like more pinching. Like, oh my God. Then I start to remember the email or article that I'd read, and I thought, oh my God, am I having a heart attack? So I go start looking for the information. What in the world? Well, I wrestled around enough that Jetty finally was like, what are you doing? I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up. And I didn't want to say, I thought I might be having a heart attack, right? It's so ridiculous. But he's like, what are you reading? I'm sorry, I'm looking up the symptoms for a heart attack. He's like, why? Having the weirdest sensation. And I don't think that this is what it said. It wasn't at all. But I remember thinking it's different than a man. So I'm like, I was just really nervous because I'm having this sensation and it's going down my back and it feels like it's tingling. He goes, didn't you take some of that new stuff tonight? I did. I only took one. And he's like, think that that's what it is? And I thought, oh my gosh. Okay, we didn't have anybody to bounce that off of back then because we were the first ones taking it. That, for me, was the first indication of, oh my gosh. Now, by the way, it had nothing to do with a heart attack. Nobody get mixed up there. It was a sensation that was weird, enough to wake me up and then keep me up. Now, it wasn't really painful as much as it was like alerting. It just made me feel, come to find out, it's actually repairing nerve casing. The nerve casing is called, why can I not come up with, somebody help me. There is a casing around your nerves. It's like an electrical wire. So you've got electric, you see all the little different colors. Yes, the myelin sheath. Thank you. Everybody's saving me tonight. So you can imagine all these different colored wires inside of a casing. And when the casing is damaged, that's when you have neuropathy or nerve pain. This is the only thing on the market that I'm aware of that actually repairs the myelin. I don't know if you say it myelin or myelin sheath. Actually repairs it. And that's what I was feeling that night. And I felt it every single day that I took it. Like, I felt it. It didn't hurt. But I could feel it actually working. I mean, this stuff is amazing. I know. Maybe they'll change. They're trying to work on getting folic acid out of any products that it has it in it. Horrible hip pain, somebody says. Oh, Karen says, for 13 years, 10 plus on a scale of 1 to 10. She started the ease and nerve loading dose 3 years ago. Pain-free for 3 years now. Love it. Okay. Have a herniated disc. I take one a day. It keeps the pain away. If I foolishly run out, then I need a loading dose and maybe a chiropractor appointment or two. Maintain on one a day. My daughter in sports uses it, and she had a blow to the head this spring within 2 weeks. Made sure she took it. Everybody's loving it. Okay. One other thing that crossed my mind, I got to back up and think what it was. Oh, running out of product. I'm just going to tell you right now. If you're one of those people that ends up, look, somebody actually confessed it here. I'm going to get on you. Not you, just in general. If you're one of those people that you're like, I can't live without my Plexus, and then you message me and you're like, you're like, my order, it didn't get shipped out soon. Oh my God, this. My child has asthma and now they're having an attack. They hadn't had one in 2 years. Don't put yourself in that position. Now, I'm really getting on you because for me, it breaks my heart. If I get a message like that, I'm like, where you live? I'll meet you somewhere. You know I will. Or I'll ship you some or whatever. It kills me when someone really needs it. It makes me just, okay, I don't want anybody to be in that position, so I'm not really getting on to you. But think about this. Put it in the forefront of your mind to always have an additional month's supply of the ones that you can't live without. Me too. Somebody says, I keep giving it away. I understand that. Totally understand that. Okay, a smashed toenail from several years ago. I'll tell you what I would do. I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to tell you what I would do if it was me. I would keep them on the products. If you have him on the products, I'd keep him on. Well, everybody needs to be on Triplex, in my opinion. But if not on the Triplex, needs to at least be on. If it's always a black toenail, that's weird that it's staying black. I would rub I would rub Ease Cream on the toenail. That's what I would do. I mean, not Ease Cream, body cream on it, because there's something in there that's not good, because that's weird. You would think if it's black that's a bruise, but if it's staying there, that's weird. So that's what I would do. I'd put body cream on it. I might put body cream around the outer edge with some X Factor in it. Okay. This has been a really long Zoom call, but this is a good one. I'm glad that we did this. I'm glad you guys showed up, right? What was really weird, this whole time I thought I only had one page of people, and there's 4 pages of people. Like, we're filled up. I thought this is so weird. Of all the Zooms that I've done, I really anticipated that there would be a lot of people on here because I'm going to be talking non-compliant. I'm hoping that I've left you with just a slightly increased sense of belief in our products. There are very few things that we can't impact out there in the medical realm. Very few things that, I can't even, I'm not really, honestly. Oh, there's a Gardasil question. Oh, I didn't see it. Somebody bring up all these controversial, in the realm of vaccinations. If I had to pick one that I wouldn't get near, it would be that one. In a million flipping years. Wouldn't let my daughter. That's just my opinion. Sorry. If anybody's like major pro-vaccinations, I believe that if you're pro-vaccinations, you really should do your research and also do a schedule where they can space them out if you really are pro-vaccination. If you have a preteen and your doctor starts pushing it, tell them no. If they keep pushing it, this is my opinion. I'm not telling anybody what to do. If they keep pushing it, change doctors. We have too many people on our Plexus team who had daughters who had paralysis. It's terrible. Like we had a whole group, a leg of mamas who the reason they all knew each other is because they were all part of a support group because their daughters like passed out and like had symptoms of comas and stuff for a while after taking the Gardasil shot. It needs to be tweaked. That's how I feel about it. If they want to give it to people, they need to tweak it better because I've seen too many people. I usually don't get into that stuff. That I know it's very controversial, especially I wouldn't have gotten onto it with like 4 pages worth of people when I don't know who else on here. But if it's already done and your daughter's fine, don't worry about it. Like, I don't think it's something that, possibly it's going to be something we find out about later that it had a long-term impact. But if you have the choice now, and many of you do have daughters that are young that haven't had it yet, and I think they're pushing it. These commercials, oh my gosh. Like just the commercials make me want to kill someone because they're like, Mom, Dad, did you know? It's a guilt trip in a commercial. Tells me that they make a fortune off of it in some way or the other. Either a long-term fortune. Okay, I'm going to shut up about that. I can't believe I just ended on that. Okay. All right. I'm going to pray over us. If you ever watch commercials, just pay attention to all the warnings at the end. It sounds like the tag, tax, and title information. They tag, tax, and title. It's the tag, tax, and title of the pharmaceuticals. They're like, may cause a coma? We don't know. That's basically what they're saying on all these. We don't know. We've seen it do terrible things, but we think your kid needs it. Not just vaccinations. That's all drugs. All right. I'm reading some of these private messages. Yeah. I don't think it's a big deal. I think weakened immune system, I'll talk about it a little bit more, okay? Because I feel bad for saying that. I think if they have a weakened immune system when they take it, they're in more danger. And I think you would know immediately if they were in danger. And I know that I can't see all the names of who are on this call. There's very well several mamas who have experienced what I'm talking about. Like, because some of them on my team have. Like, can't get their daughters to wake up the next morning without like, get them up. And that's what I think I have heard recently. Teenagers in my life who were given vaccinations that they had already had because the other doctor didn't document it. And they're like, I already had that. And on the same day given a Gardasil shot. Like a whole set of vaccinations and on the same day given a Gardasil shot. And to me, that stuff should be spaced out. If you're going to do it, it needs to be spaced out. I wouldn't worry about it if if you've passed it. Like, watch there be somebody on here who got it today and now I'm like freaking them out. But I'm saying if you're past it and everybody's okay, then we don't need to look back and with regret and fear. But research it. If you haven't done it yet, research it. Don't talk about it on your Facebook wall unless you want to just really piss off a bunch of people. Just telling you. Trust me. How would she know, right? Okay. Woo! I'm sweating like crazy. I don't know if it's the Gardasil or the Holy Spirit, one of those two. Gardasil talk, right? All right. Got me a little makeup mirror at the convention. Watch me shine. One it says, hello, beautiful. It's been in a person here, and I just now found it. So, okay. I think I've settled down enough. I can pray for us. So, God, I just want to praise your name. I want to praise you for your holiness, for your sovereignty, for the way that you guard us and protect us, the way that you are the ultimate healer. To me, this thing that we do, this plexus thing, is about opening a door to something even better than plexus. Thank you for an environment of open minds and receptive spirits and hearts. So I pray before these calls that, that I speak only truth. Lord, don't let me speak anything that's not the truth. And that there would be receptive spirits. And I always can feel it from you guys, and I appreciate that. We have one of the most impactful jobs in the world if we take it like a tool and use it. I'm talking about the products. I'm talking about the whole thing. I'm talking if you take what we have and say, this is my shovel. This is how I'm going to get out of the tunnel I'm in. This is my tool. And I'm going to do it by helping other people. It's that simple. God, don't let us make anything too hard. Our faith, our business, our marriages, our understanding of negative emotion. I want to talk about this for just a second. Any time in your life that you are walking through a season of seemingly negative emotion, so you have something coming at you and you feel doubt or you feel fear, you feel unforgiveness trying to rear its ugly head, those seasons, I truly believe with all my heart, are intended to be seasons of growth for you. And the quicker you can recognize it as that season, the quicker you don't have to go through the same season again. I know that many of you know people who always, and maybe maybe this is something you've experienced in your own life. It's like that person is always a victim. And I'm not saying like they have victim mentality. I'm saying literally all the bad things happen to them. And I just believe it's because there's a lack of acknowledgement of the season that they're in. So it's like, well, I'm going to keep giving you, okay, have you ever taken a spelling test and you have to take it on Wednesday and then you take it again on Friday because you missed some of the words on Wednesday. So you did, for some reason, there's something you haven't acknowledged within yourself yet, or something that the Holy Spirit is trying to maybe bring to a surface, like a pimple, trying to bring it to the surface with you. And frequently, I know there's always going to be cases where nothing is foolproof about what I'm saying here, but when you're operating in negative emotion, first of all, that's when your immune system goes down and you're more likely to end up sick. And it's also when you're more likely to have to go through the same lesson and trial season again, over and over and over. It's like, till you get all the spelling words right. Now, some people don't agree with what I'm saying right there because they're like, no, this has nothing to do with me. And I believe that reason we kind of feel that way is because we want to think, I'm not to blame for this. I'm completely 100% innocent and I'm a victim. I don't look at it like that. And I'm not saying that you're not innocent. I'm just saying I look at it like, rather than feeling like I'm not responsible for this, you should feel like, well, praise God, at least I have some control here. At least I have some power in this situation. In other words, I can start to acknowledge the areas in my life that seem to always be drawn to this, like victimhood or whatever the negative things going on. I can begin to not acknowledge. Now, if you're like, what is it I'm supposed to acknowledge? You have to ask God that. He will point it out to you. Trust me. If you say, okay, God, I'm struggling. If you say I'm struggling in my marriage, God, seems like everywhere I turn, someone is trying to steal from me. And I mean, steal your joy. Someone is trying to literally rob you of things, cheat you out of things. If that is going on in several areas of your life, I really encourage you to say, God, what is it? What am I missing here? Is this a reflection of something? Something I need to acknowledge. And in those instances, I truly believe I'm not saying you won't go through other trials, but I feel like for the majority of people that I coach in this particular topic, that particular lesson usually stands down and they move on to the next thing. I believe also the acknowledgement that that's what life is helps you to stand in a place of gratitude rather than a place of woe is me, all the bad things happen. You can be like, okay, I get it. This is a lesson. I can be grateful for the lesson. I can be grateful for how much I've grown in the last 6 months, in the last 6 years. I don't know, somebody, earlier when I talked about neck pain, I used to have neck pain. I haven't had neck pain in a long time. And I have neck pain right now, and I know it's not mine. So maybe there's somebody on here who has it feels like nerve pain, but maybe muscle pain. I want to tell you what I've learned in regards to stuff like this. This kind of stuff just has recently in the last year or so started happening to me where I'll experience something like that. And I used to think that this stuff was cuckoo when I would go somewhere, see something like this go on. And you always do until something like that happens to you. So what I've learned about it, because of course when it started happening to me, I wanted to research it and see why the crazy stuff is happening to me now. And what I learned is sometimes God will do something very specific. Like you guys that were on here a couple of weeks ago, you saw it be something very specific that I called out like this. And in those instances, sometimes it's just God's way of acknowledging that maybe what I was just talking about, maybe the negative emotion or something, really applies to someone that he's saying, yeah, you with the neck pain. Okay? Like sometimes it's like something I'll talk about in a little bit might really apply to you. I don't know, but I'm just really trying to be, this is scary, by the way, to me to talk about stuff like this but I'm trying to be obedient to the Holy Spirit. So maybe one of you on here has some sort of neck pain, and maybe also you struggle with a negative emotion. Maybe you've struggled in your relationship with the Lord because you don't understand. This is what I think it is. Because you don't understand his true nature and his love for you. Maybe you've had bad experiences and bad things happen in your life, and those things have made you question his love for you. Maybe it's made you question his love for people in general, and this is his way of saying, I see you. I know who you are. And just by the fact that I know who you are should tell you that I care about you. I've seen something as simple as this instantaneously heal the pain in the neck, but mostly it usually starts generally with the pain in the heart, whatever's going on underneath. Maybe a false belief that you've had about God or his work in your life, or whether he was working in your life, or whether you even register on his radar. I encourage you, I have no idea what I'm talking about right now, except for I'm just telling you what I feel, but I encourage you, if I am talking to you tonight, that after this call, you should really reach out to God. I mean, maybe you're doing it right now. Just reach out and say, I feel like that was me. I don't know what to do. You can just be honest. That's the only way I know how to pray. I start praying and then I end up talking, and then to me, I close it out and it's all a prayer. But that's what praying is, you know? Praying's not all asking. Sometimes it's confessing or even showing confusion. Sometimes it's just release. Sometimes it's like, God, I don't know. I feel like you were nudging me tonight. Maybe not even about this particular thing, but God, I feel like you were nudging me tonight, and this is my first rodeo. I don't know what the breakdown of this is. And and I'm encouraging this to you too, I would prefer to be led by the Holy Spirit than anybody's daily devotional, anybody else's idea of who God is. And I'm talking about anybody's. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you are having like some sort of encounter tonight, the Holy Spirit, that's the acknowledgement that he's like, I'm here. I'm here. And I'm not telling you not to go to your pastor or your preacher, but I'm saying don't have all your faith in something like that when you've got the acknowledgement the Holy Spirit is with you. Lean into that. Ask questions. I feel like especially in this case, like where negative emotion rises up, depending on where you go to church, you may leave church with negative emotion rising up. Did you know that? Have you left church and been like, I feel so whatever? There are healthy ways to feel that way, and then there are ways that are not healthy. And I just pray in every situation, no matter where you go to church, no matter if you go to church, that I pray supernatural, divine, Holy Spirit guidance for every one of you that you learn to tune into. Like, you know, like Tune In Tokyo. There's that frequency or that whatever that's like, that you're willing to pause and be still and be quiet in his presence. Put your phone somewhere else and just be, I mean, sometimes it feels very vulnerable to just get quiet in a quiet room and just wait. Say, God, I'm trying, I'm doing my best to turn off my human part of me. Let my spirit tune in with you. I pray supernatural experiences for those of you, especially any of those that you're on this call tonight, that you're listening to this prayer and you're feeling like something intense, that you're like, this is okay. I pray that you will lean into those experiences, the supernatural, divine encounters that God wants to have with you. Praise is a great place to start. Gratitude, praise, positive emotion. Kick that negative emotion to the curb. When you feel it bubble up, no, not today. I'm going to praise. I'm going to talk about the things that are good. No, I don't know who that was, but the pain that was in my neck has gone. Bonus footage. tension. It felt tense, very tense. Tense and intense, but it felt very tense. Sometimes when you get really quiet and you just pause and you can just listen for guidance. I pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. Ooh. Okay. Okay, we have a prayer request here, you guys. So put this in your, if you have journals or whatever. Susan, she says, please keep my mom in your prayers. Her scoliosis has shifted and it's come to the point where the doctors want to do surgery. Still trying to control her pain with Plexus products and more pain meds on top of that. She's still trying to do stuff at home. It ended up falling and hurting herself pretty bad yesterday. Praying for you. I don't know which Susan I'm talking to, though. There's a few Susans that could be on here. It doesn't matter necessarily, but if I were going to respond to you later. Somebody else, give me 1 second here. I'm just going to make sure this is not pertinent. Someone else said they messaged me. Okay. Got another prayer request there, you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. It usually doesn't last this long. If this is your first one, you got inducted easy, didn't you? Or like hard and fast. That's what I should say. Hard and fast, but it took a long time, right? Okay. I'm going to stop the recording.